Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
You wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Venom: The Last Dance. Venom: The Last Dance, released in 2024, written and directed by Kelly Marcel. Eddie and Venom, on the run, face pursuit from both worlds. As circumstances tighten, they're compelled to make a heart-wrenching choice that could mark the end of their symbiotic partnership. Now, I am one of those people that loved the first two movies, and I definitely thought the second one was a little overhated. I understand why people didn't like it, especially as much as the first one. I just still think it didn't get the credit that it deserved, because it was still a good movie, in my opinion. And I just have to say that this one definitely did not disappoint. I had high hopes for it because I enjoyed the other two. And as wrapping up trilogies go, I think this is a really good way to do it. There are some things that definitely could have been done better, but that's really the case for most movies. So without further ado, let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. Now, I thought the plot of this movie was good. I liked the introduction of Null. I liked that he was kind of the main guy behind this whole movie, because he is a big part of the symbiote world and of Marvel in general. So I'm glad that they included him, and I'm also glad that they didn't do what they did to Carnage and kind of just have him be a one and done. I feel like he still has a chance to come back in a later movie. I feel like that's not the same for Carnage, at least not in the same way. So I am glad that they made those particular choices. However, one thing that did bother me about the plot, and definitely could have been done differently, is the aliens that worked for Null, that were hunting down Venom to get the Codex. I think that the fact that they were unkillable was very annoying, because it felt like there was no end in sight, because it's impossible to really defeat this enemy. So if they were killable and they just kept coming, like the Chitauri, for example, in Avengers, it would be more pleasing, because then it would actually feel like there is an end in sight. Because whenever they defeated one of these aliens in this movie, I'm like, well, they're just going to come back. So if anything, it's just prolonging this battle, when instead of just finishing one and continuing on to the next one, which I thought would have been better. I fully expected this movie's ending to be more like hundreds of those things are coming through and they have to just defeat them all, instead of just, oh no, there's just a few of them, and it's the reason it's so hard is because you literally can't defeat them. So I thought that really did impact the plot a lot, because if they were killable, it would have been a completely different way of going through this entire plot line. So I just thought that was probably my biggest gripe of this movie. But other than that, I actually did really enjoy the plot. The second essential aspect is attraction. I thought this movie was very entertaining. I'm a Marvel guy. I love Venom, so seeing him on the big screen is always a plus for me. But I did think the comedy in this was very good. Even though it was subtle at parts, it kind of made that even better. And the action scenes were actually also looked really good, especially some towards the end. I thought they really looked good, so I got more invested in it and kind of was entertained watching it. The third essential aspect is theme. I think the main message or theme in this movie is, when you have someone that you're best friends with, or that you just have this really close connection with, and you can't see them anymore, it's going to be hard to move forward with that. And that is evident in this movie, and that is something that they talk about throughout a lot of the movie. So when certain scenes happen, it makes the audience more emotional, because they know the connection that they have. And I think that was the main message they're also trying to get to the audience, to try to emphasize on those scenes, to kind of make the viewers put themselves in that position with someone else that they care about. So I think that was definitely the message that they were trying to come across. If it's not that, then I have no idea what else it could be. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. Now, as always in these Venom movies, I love the dialogue strictly because Venom and Eddie talking to each other, when it's both Tom Hardy's voice and kind of he has to act like it's the answers in his head, or the conversations he's having. So it's cool to see that kind of dynamic. And I just think the relationship that Venom and Eddie have make the conversations feel really real. And in this movie in general, all the dialogue was okay, but I did really like the ones between Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy. The fifth essential aspect is acting. So I do have to say, all the acting in this movie was at least decent. I didn't think there was any bad acting in this movie. There was some better than others, But the main focal point of this movie is obviously Tom Hardy, who played Eddie and Venom, and he did a great job in the first two Venoms. I think his acting was really taking charge in those movies, and I think it did the same thing in here. He knows the character so much, he knows Venom so much, he knows how to make the character convincing and make you actually invested in that character, which definitely helped with this movie, because the whole point of this movie, leading up to the end, needed you to be invested in this character. So the fact that he did a great job made me really feel like he is Eddie, that the voice that he does is Venom, and seeing the relationship that he really has by playing both these characters, that's impressive. That's impressive, and that's little said. So I have to say, Tom Hardy did an amazing job in this movie, and the Venom trilogy wouldn't really be much without him. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. Now, when it comes to the visuals of cinematography, I think it looked pretty good. I did like a lot of the scenes and how they looked. I also did like how the symbiotes looked. There were a few that weren't as good as others, but none really looked bad. But I do have to say the aliens that worked for Noel that came after Venom in this movie, they looked really cool. But the scenes that really looked good with them were when, even though I hated that they were unkillable, when they got killed and came back together, actually seeing all like the muscle fibers forming back again and all the body plates latching back on, those were visually appealing. So I do have to give him credit for that. And when it comes to the emotion, I'm very emotionally invested in Marvel movies in general, but Tom Hardy's acting is really good in this, and he makes you really invest yourself in the character. So when the ending happened, I mean, it was just tragic. It was just tragic. My heart dropped. So I have to say, emotionally, I definitely do think the cinematography was good. I got invested in it, the final scenes. And I have to say, the final scene of this movie, that got me more than the part that probably got most people, just because of the emotional value it had. The seventh essential aspect is editing. This movie is 1 hour and 49 minutes long. I like that. I like that they didn't spend too much time on a movie that already has two previous movies to the trilogy, because they don't have to do as much character development, which means that they can spend more time on a solid plot and on an ending of the trilogy that makes sense and can leave audience members satisfied. And I have to say they did do that. I think they paced the movie really well, and since they didn't have to spend too much time on character development, they could have jumped straight into the action and actually moving forward with this plot, which is why I'm glad that they kept it under 2 hours. Now, it could have been fine over 2 hours. It definitely could have, and it probably I don't think it needed to be any shorter, but it definitely could have been longer, and I still would have enjoyed it. I just don't know if everyone would have enjoyed it as much. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. Now, I actually liked the soundtrack of this movie. I thought it was very fun. I thought it matched Venom's personality in this really, really well. So I think the song choices they used were actually really good. The ninth essential aspect is directing. I think it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the director of this movie is Kelly Marcel. And this is actually the first movie he's directed. However, he did write for both Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, so he knew about the story and knew how to proceed it in a manner where it wouldn't kind of ruin the whole trilogy. So I do think he was a good choice for it, and I definitely think he did not disappoint. The 10th essential aspect is time. Now, I think the only way that Venom will stand the test of time is if people start appreciating this trilogy a little more after this movie, because I honestly thought this was a really good trilogy. Now, it's not going to be one of my favorites. In Marvel, it might be up there for trilogies because, well, there isn't too many trilogies. But I think overall, Venom is a very popular character. So I really do think their movies are going to be rewatched plenty of times. And I just feel like as a movie on its own, I wouldn't know if it does. But as a trilogy, I think it will. Now, onto the reviews. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 39%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it an 80%, and IMDb gave it a 62%. Now, 39%, you haters gotta get out of here, because it is not a 39%. It is not that bad. I'm sure Carnage was also put around the same point. I don't know why the critics are hating on this movie so much, but it does not deserve it. It is a good movie. And 80, I do think is slightly a little too high, so let's get that out of there as well. I think 62 is pretty good. I'd put it slightly higher, maybe high 60s to low 70s range. I do think it was a good movie. I'd enjoy myself. I would watch it again, though I really had 1 or 2 gripes with the whole movie, so it wasn't really a big issue. So I really don't know why the other rating was so low, but I definitely think it belongs in that area. And finally, the rankings. So in 2024, it's going to be fifth, above The Fall Guy and below Inside Out 2. Now it's above The Fall Guy because I found myself enjoying this movie a little more, and I definitely was more engaged with the actual movie itself, with the characters, with the plot. Now, The Fall Guy, I loved that movie. I definitely think that it's slightly forgettable. Now, I don't think I will forget it as much, but that's probably just because I do all these movie reviews, and it's going to be on my channel forever, and I'll see it all the time. But I just think Venom: The Last Dance did it slightly better. I think that the action sequences were definitely better, and the emotional value that the movie had definitely surpassed The Fall Guy. And I think it's below Inside Out 2 because Inside Out 2 is just as good as Inside Out. And Inside Out is way higher up on my list. I just think that I would rather have... I usually just, like when I put the sequel lower, it's because if I had to get rid of something, I would get rid of a movie I put above it instead of... or I'd get rid of this one instead of a movie I'd put above it because I still have Inside Out to watch. Now, this is kind of the same deal. I feel like I might put it above. I was thinking about putting it above it, but I realized, no, I mean, this is also a sequel. Venom 1 is definitely better. As much as I like this, I do like Venom 1 more, and that's going to go a little higher. So I thought just putting it right here would fit it well. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean... Actually, it does. I do think that Inside Out 2 is a better movie overall, so that's also another reason. But still, this is just where I thought I'd put it. In the 2020s, it's also going to be fifth for the same thing, above The Fall Guy and below Inside Out 2, so I'm not going to waste your time with that. And in all time, it's going to be 19th, above Redline and below Deadpool 2. Now, it's above Redline because, obviously, that movie, I said in the review, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm not an anime guy, but I still enjoyed that movie. I thought it actually worked. All the things I didn't like about anime that were in Redline, I think still worked and still was an enjoyable watch. However, I had some plot issues in that movie that I don't think Venom: The Last Dance had. Now, that could also be some bias towards me because I'm not the biggest fan of anime, but I am a big fan of Marvel, so it kind of maybe counterbalanced it. But I don't know. I mean, this was easy for me when I tried to figure out where I'm ranking it. I put it right here without second thought. I just thought this is exactly where it needed to be. And it's below Deadpool 2 because both are Marvel heroes. I think that both plots are interesting. I just think the characters in... Actually, you know what? That's not true. I think there's a bigger emotional value. Definitely a bigger emotional value. No, I'm wrong. For a second, I don't know why. I was thinking of Deadpool 1. No, Deadpool 2, yeah, no. That movie, I bawled my eyes out for a long time. Well, first off, Deadpool is basically tied for my favorite Marvel character with Spider-Man. And seeing him in that movie... I cried a lot, actually. So that's why I forgot that's why I ranked it here. Oh my goodness. My brain is not working this time. Yeah, so Deadpool 2, the emotional value it had in that movie definitely surpassed Venom 3, even though that one also had crazy emotional value. So that's really what I judged off of because I like both characters. I love both plots, and I really just based it off of they were going for emotion, so how much emotion did one get over the other? And Deadpool 2 definitely got a lot more. That's all I have for Venom: The Last Dance. I'm sorry my brain just was not working this video. I completely just forgot why I was even saying words. But either way, if you like this review, leave a like and subscribe and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. Go check out Mr. Majoritarian. He's also going to watch this movie and upload it probably sometime this upcoming week, maybe next week, depending. He is not in my position. He has school, so he is a lot harder. It's a lot harder for him to find all the time to do YouTube, so that's why he doesn't post as much as I do. But yeah, definitely go check him out. He is the reason I started doing movie reviews, so I can never thank him enough for that. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you guys have an amazing night, and peace out.